Struggling to decide whether or not to put your home on the market? And then maybe to make decisions of, do you sell it as is, or are there repairs that you should do? Well, in this video, we're going to go through the details of the pros and cons of selling your home as is. Let's get into it. San Diego's real estate market is really dynamic and actually very competitive. The market has done wonders and has continued to appreciate because there's just a lack of inventory for all of the buyers that are looking to live in San Diego County. So with that, one of the questions that we get all the time is that when you're selling a property, should I sell the property as is? Or are there things that we should do that are going to make it stand out in San Diego's housing market? Well, first, let's touch on what is as is. And this is really interesting because when I meet with home sellers on a consistent basis, the purchase contract from the Department of Real Estate for the state of California is an as-is sale. It's an as-is sale with what you can visually see with your naked eye when you walk into any property. That is the default of the contract. Then it goes into deeper things that a buyer has the right to do due diligence and figure out everything that might exist at a property by doing inspections. A general home inspection, roof inspection, pipe inspections, electrical inspections, and really understand what exists at the property. So a seller has to disclose everything that they know about the property that they are selling. But you'd be amazed to know that there are sellers that don't know, or they've lived in a property so long that they have become accustomed to the conditions that the property might be in, and they have either workarounds or are immune to a deficiency that might exist. And we run into that all the time. So the question becomes is there a pro to selling as is? Meaning that, is there a benefit to just selling the property as is so that you don't have any work? Well, that comes down to a case-by-case basis. The reason is it depends on the seller directly. If you're a homeowner and you're selling your principal residence and you live in the property, then an as-is sale might not be ideal for you, but let's go into the details of why. The pros of selling as is that you have a lot of flexibility. The sellers have no repairs to make, they have no cosmetic items to deal with, and that it's a real time saving for them to be able to go to the next location that whether they're moving locally or they're moving out of state. Especially our sellers that are moving out of state, they control the time. And so it's a benefit for them with that flexibility of selling a property as is. Now, the cost savings could be astronomical, but there's two sides to that. Yes, you're not going to have any expenses in repairs or renovations to upgrade the property to put it on the market, but that actually could end up costing you, and we'll talk about that. By selling as is, it really lends itself to an investor as well. Right now in this market, investors are feasting off of properties that have a lot of deficiencies, may be dilapidated, maybe all original. They want properties like that because they go in and fix and flip them. They usually, when you're a home seller, an as-is sale can lend itself to a quicker sale so you can have your money faster. And it creates kind of a simplified process so that you're just opening an escrow and closing an escrow. It's very matter of fact. The only real terms you're dealing with is price. The last pro is that there could actually be a potential for a higher return on investment selling as is. And here's what I mean. You as a home seller could go in and make renovations. You could do repairs in advance of putting the property on the market, and you could actually have a higher expense than what you're going to get in return. So if you had $30,000 of renovations, but it really only amounted to a $10,000 improvement in your sales price, that renovation really didn't pan out. So that's why selling as is could be beneficial. Also, selling as is, if you're a seller, and we deal with trustees of trusts all the time, you want to limit your liability. You don't want to make repairs or renovations to a property that you may be liable for, or your contractors may be liable for after the close of escrow. So you want to limit the renovations and any type of repairs that you make in advance if you're a non-occupant seller. You're a trustee of a trust. You might be an investor. You don't want to be tied to the property post-closing where you might have to come back and do those types of repairs. All that sounds great as a pro, but really, what are the cons of selling as is? Well, it has its drawbacks, I'm going to have to tell you. The significant thing of selling as is obviously is going to be purchase price. The lower sales price, because someone is going to build into that purchase price the fact that they are going to have to do renovations or repairs to the property. So naturally, the first thing that they can negotiate is going to be price. The other thing is from a buying pool perspective, not as many buyers in this marketplace, especially with interest rates at the terms that they are willing to sign up for a renovation type property. They want to be able to come in, put their furniture down, and live. So what that does is it really shrinks a home seller's buying pool, because there's only a certain type of buyer that's going to sign up for that type of property. Well, and you still are going to have a series of risks. A buyer still has the right to go ahead and do a series of inspections. And we have had clients who had as-is sales, and we've had multiple cancellations because of things that were discovered during the home inspection. And that buying pool just kept getting smaller and smaller because there are only certain people that wanted to sign up after all these inspections that took place. And buyers did different inspections. Not all buyers do the same one. A general inspection is fairly normal. However, they can get specific depending on the deficiency that exists at the property, whether it be plumbing, roof, electrical, foundation, things of that nature. The other thing is when you sell as is, sometimes you have a perception challenge. And that perception is that they believe that as is properties, that sometimes you're hiding something or there's something already wrong going into it. And for that reason, they're going to negotiate terms reflective of that because they have preconceived notions when someone says that they're selling the home as is. Like I said before, you still have legal liability issues. Even though if you're a trustee or someone that has not occupied the property, there's standard disclosures. But if you're a home seller and you've occupied the property, you still have to disclose anything that you know about the property and its deficiencies. And that's up to a buyer to go ahead and review. Now, we have had circumstances where there was a known deficiency and it didn't come to light until post-closing. And lo and behold, after consulting and talking with maybe neighbors, maybe even the listing agent on the property, the seller actually knew of that deficiency. So you really have to make sure that you disclose everything that you know when you're doing an as-is sale, just like you would a typical real estate transaction. Probably one of the most difficult things is when you're selling your home as is, that really, when you shrink that buying pool, there's difficulty in obtaining financing. When a property has a series of deficiencies, the appraiser is going to come in and take a look at a property. And if there are any health and safety issues, they have the right to call that out in the appraisal. And so that can make it a struggle for any buyer to go ahead and get a loan on that property while they're looking to purchase. They might not be the ones that actually control whether or not the bank is going to lend on the property. That appraiser is. And though there are conventional loans, there are rehab loans, there are things of that nature to circumnavigate those things. Sometimes not all sellers are willing to work with a buyer for the type of renovation loans depending on the deficiencies of a property. So they're looking for something clean. And so when you have that, usually the terms, and the first term that's going to get impacted is always price again. Now, probably the biggest thing that we run into, especially as listing agents, is a seller that has occupied a property for a number of years has an emotional attachment to the property. And so for that reason, sometimes if there's deficiencies that exist or any type of repair that needs to be made, they have lived in the property or lived in it in such a way that that is just natural to them. And so it can become emotional to do any type of repair or renovation or rehab while the seller still has the property in their possession. And so that can be an emotional toll for a home seller. And so one of those things is that we don't ever want to do those in advance, and every situation is unique. Every single home has a story, and that story of that particular homeowner has to be catered to. And so we have to meet all those circumstances to make sure what's right for that particular seller at the time. In recent years, especially in East County, East San Diego County for that matter, the inventory shortages are astronomical. But people have flocked to this area because we have larger parcels and we have homes with a little bit bigger square footage. Our density is not quite as high as within the city of San Diego proper. But as is selling can align itself because sometimes those prices are reflective in that because some of these homes need more work because they're larger, they're on larger parcels. There's other things that exist there. So sellers should be mindful of the potential challenges that exist when you're going to put your property up on the market and make that decision of whether or not you want to sell your home as is. And that's why a private consultation with someone that does this every day can guide you through the home selling process and get everything to work. Maybe it's just some minor things that need to happen, or maybe they're items that will be negotiated once a buyer surfaces and actually puts an official contract in front of you to purchase your home. There really is strategies to maximize your success as a home seller, and we specialize in that and help every single one of our home sellers come up with a plan to maximize their goals of what they need at the time. Not all goals are the same. Could be price, it could be time, it could be limit of liability, it could be the fact that they want to remain in the property after the close of escrow. There are so many different scenarios and every single client is different. And we specialize in working with our clients to make sure that all their goals are met for what they need at the time. So if you got any value out of this video, like and subscribe down below. If you have any questions or specific questions about your scenario that you need answered, feel free, hit it in the comments down below or send me a message. I'm happy to answer anything that you might have. But selling as is in the San Diego market, it can offer advantages and disadvantages or even challenges for your current situation. So by understanding the dynamics of what the market is going through right now can really help you as a home seller. If you're ready to sell your house and you just have questions, or you need a private strategy session to come up with what your goals might be, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love the opportunity to help.